whatever works best.
Cool, let's just roll into it, man. So you've come to give us a demo on oSnap, right? And talk about the proposal that Billy has submitted to the forum to potentially integrate oSnap in our snapshot.
Yeah. I think it can be easily explained through a quick little demo, and then also I just want to give anyone that has questions an opportunity to talk to the proposal, and just want to make sure everyone's comfortable uh, with what's being proposed, and I think clear up any confusion if there is any.
Awesome, man. Do you want to give like a real quick TLDR on what oSnap is? I think most people here know, but recording it as well for folks that can't be here.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, so oSnap at a high level, we really built it as a way to allow DAOs to continue using Snapshot with off-chain voting and all the benefits that it has. And then where oSnap comes in is it's essentially the on-chain execution based on the results of a Snapshot proposal. So how the flow works is that once you add oSnap, Snapshot recognizes that and will give you the option to include transactions in the Snapshot proposal. And if the Snapshot proposal passes, and basically, that means if a majority votes in favor, if it meets the minimum quorum voting period, the transactions will actually be executed, and I can touch more on that. But that's at a high level. That's really the value that we're providing.
Awesome. Yeah, I think like just from like the logistics standpoint, like being able to execute that stuff without like having to chase around signers, I think is a massive benefit on its own. And then from like a decentralization of the DAO perspective, like people being able to submit applications and it go all the way through to execution without like relying on those humans to execute it, I think is really good too. I'd be interested to know if anyone's got any questions, or if not, maybe you want to jump into a demo.
Yeah, that's perfect. I'll just jump into the demo, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to stop me at any time. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I see Snapshot.
Yeah, so I'm sorry?
It was just someone with background noise, I think, mate.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I kind of just picked a random current developer DAO proposal, and basically what I really want to highlight is just how little the change once you add oSnap to that governance flow is, and then also you still have the optionality to create non-oSnap proposals. But I think this would be a potential candidate because there is like code distributions included in this proposal. So like, let's just say that developer DAO had added oSnap. When the person that was creating the proposal was creating the proposal, they now have this option to use oSnap. And basically all that does is it restricts the voting type to for, against, or abstain. But now you have this transaction builder where you could include transfers or contract interactions, or even raw transactions. And there's also this import tool. I don't know if the current governance flow uses like the safe transaction builder, but you could easily use that to import these transactions. And basically this would recognize assets that are in the developer DAO Treasury. So if you had code, you could easily just click that, change use the address that you want the tokens to be distributed to, and that's pretty much all you have to do to add transactions to the proposal. You could also do batch transactions. So if you wanted to do multiple transfers or even transactions that execute at different times, you could also, yeah, add multiple transaction batches. But for now, we'll just do a simple transfer added to this proposal. And so now that, yeah, now that you've built that transaction, added these transactions to the proposal, this is pretty much what voters would see these transfers or contract interactions included in the snapshot proposal. And these transactions are going to be what is proposed and executed if the proposal passes. So I'll stop there. Are there any questions basically at a high level on just how transactions are added to the proposal, or any like developer DAO specific questions that like if there's transactions that or questions on transactions that might have been added based on like the operations of the DAO, I can go deeper into that if you do anything outside of like transfers.
I got a couple. I saw like a type drop down on the transfer. I assume we can do like contract interactions. So like if we wanted to change, like if we had any on-chain contracts we wanted to change the parameters on, or if we wanted to call any external contracts, we can do that through here as well.
Yes, absolutely. I should have just dropped in like a contract, but it's like if there's a lot of DAOs like across, or there's a DAO Epoch Island that's pretty much done. They did like their full ERC20 deployment and airdrop. They've deployed their balancer pools, everything through oSnap, and basically if you input the contract, it'll import the ABI and basically just show you those arguments, kind of similar to how this transfer worked, but it'll be, yeah, if you're trying to like mint tokens and you input the contract, it'll show all the methods and you just have to input the argument. So it's really easy to do contract interactions. Yeah, easier than Etherscan even.
Nice. If I gave you a contract address now, could we look at that real quick?
We could. The one thing I'm thinking, so it'll recognize what network you're on. So if is it on mainnet?
Yeah.
He's on the testnet right now.
Ah, right. Okay.
So it'll like, that's the only caveat. Like, so yeah, if we added like a Goerli contract, it would import everything. But if it was on mainnet, that'd be a little more manual.
Cool. But like the TLDR is it will pull in like the methods that are available on the contracts in this UI, and then you can like put whatever arguments into those functions in the contract that you want.
Yep. It really is. Yeah, it's simple. Like I can kind of show.
Is it like Tenderly's interface? Then it grabs the ABI and you can just see the function drop downs?
We are currently working on a Tenderly, like, so you have Tenderly simulations, but Snapshot, I think that they use, not actually sure what they use, but it's a very similar, yeah, like basically, yeah, you drop in the contract and it'll just then a drop down for all the contracts methods. So you don't have to like go to Etherscan and pull in the ABI or anything.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
And like this is a space they've just done everything with oSnap, so you can just kind of see like this is what a contract interaction looks like. So for this is a good. They just would put this contract in, and then they'd have a drop down and put safe mint, and then this is like, yeah, what they'd input after that.
Nice. It's cool. And on like the batch of transactions, could we, I think you mentioned before about someone did their airdrop and some other stuff. Like, let's say we had like a whole list of community rewards that needed to go out that month. Is that something that we could run through here? Like in maybe like a CSV, or a way we could import like a bunch of transactions to send out, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I can ask. This is actually the space that did the airdrop. I'm pretty sure that they used a script and then they basically used that like the import to import all those transactions because there were a lot. It was a lot of transfers, but you can. Yeah, you could absolutely do it through the transaction builder, or you could, yeah, you could just import all those addresses, whatever's easiest, um, depending on how many you have. If it's, but it would be really easy just to like, yeah, just to, yeah, basically manually copy in all those addresses if that's how you wanted to do it.
Cool. And then I think that's it for me. I don't know if anyone else has any questions on this bit before Alex moves on.
I'm good. I'm good.
Cool. So I guess now that the transactions are included in the proposal, let's just yeah, the voting, we're not going to wait 3 days, but let's say that this proposal voting period ended. We did a lot of work to kind of smooth this out, but what happens is someone posts a bond of 2 WETH for a 1 to 3 day challenge period. And what they're doing is proposing that these transactions are executed and saying that this is a valid snapshot proposal. So the vote passed. Yeah, the minimum quorum, minimum voting period was ended. And that gives anyone an opportunity to come in and basically dispute if some of this criteria wasn't, if any of this criteria wasn't met, and it would only take one person to come in and dispute. I think since the last time since we put up the proposal, we did create this bot that basically automates this flow. So there's no special permissions or anything this bot can do except that it will verify the snapshot proposals on behalf of the DAO and post that 2 WETH bond for that 1 to 3 day challenge period. And so anyone, like anyone from the community and developer DAO can still see this, verify it and dispute it if it's inaccurate. But what that does is basically removes the burden of some like a community member or the internal team having to come in and actually post that bond. UMA's actually just doing that for the DAOs, and then after that challenge period, the bot automatically knows when that challenge period is over and will pay for the execution costs as well. So the real focus is just automating that whole flow and not having to worry about for community members or team to have to like who's paying for the execution costs. Some of the gas costs, like for the airdrop you're talking about, I mean, it can be really expensive. So yeah, UMA's just paying for that, and then you don't have to worry about it for the DAO. I know that was a lot, so and I'm sure that there might be some questions on just yeah, how that bot works or anything like that. It is I can link to this. It's basically it's all open source code. Anyone can run this bot, and it can also be used for just monitoring. So I know there's been a few DAOs that want alerts to automatically go to their Discord or Slack, and so this is the DAO. This is the monitoring that we use and what we actually run to propose. And I should actually also mention that if someone proposes a transaction that doesn't meet the rules, this bot will also automatically dispute that proposal. And so, I mean, DAOs can still run their own monitoring, but like, it's really nice that we have several instances of this bot running that will automatically dispute bad proposals. So it really alleviates that burden from DAOs having to run all this monitoring infrastructure, but it's there if you want to use it.
When you say rules, is that like we give you the rules of our governance and then the bot checks it against that, or what do you mean?
So when you deploy, here I'll find, when you deploy an oSnap module, it'll actually recognize the quorum and the voting period of the snapshot space you're deploying to. And so the rules are basically, yeah, it's just matching what you have in for the quorum and the voting period. And that's pretty much really what's used to like classify if or the criteria that's used to like evaluate if a proposal is valid or not. So I'm actually. So do you have a quorum set currently for your proposals, um, or like a minimum voting period?
Yeah, we do. It was set after this one though. So the quorum's like 2% of
Oh,
supply, which
perfect.
is like 200,000. Yeah, there you go. And then the minimum period is 5 days or 120 hours.
Perfect. So when you deploy an oSnap module, it would basically add as the rules to that module that for a proposal to be valid, it needs to meet the minimum of 200,000 quorum and then that minimum voting period. And if anything was proposed that below that, or I mean, it would automatically be disputed. So those are basically and then like when it was escalated to the UMA token holders to vote on resolving these bond values, they would use, here's a good example of basically the rules. And you can see this minimum voting period and this quorum, and that's what's used to evaluate whether the proposal is valid or not. And not getting too deep, but also that is an important distinction is like if there's a dispute, the UMA token holders are resolving the bond values between that proposer and the disputer. They are not deciding if developer DAO should execute the transactions that are included in the proposal. UMA has no power over that. It's just those bond values. So I think that that's a really intentional design so that it gets around any possible conflicts in terms of like UMA's not deciding if transactions should be executed. It's that would be like bring in a lot of risk, which our design avoids all that.
And hey, Alex, after the rules are set, for example, for the quorum and the voting period, is it possible to modify that after it's been set?
Yes, that's a great question. There's two ways you could do it. You could actually have a snapshot proposal where you would so for in the transactions you could include, you would put the oSnap module address in here, and then there's a method called set rules, and you could add what those new rules are. So you could run that whole process through Snapshot, or the multi-sig signers could just call set rules with the new rules, and those would be added and applied to all future proposals. So it's very easy to update the rules after you set them.
Nice. Cheers.
Yeah, it'd be cool
And
to.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, it'd be cool for all of that stuff to go through governance really, and remove the reliance on the multi-sig signers, I think.
Yep. I was just gonna mention here you could actually across recently. I might have been a while back, but they did have a proposal that I can link to later that they changed the rules. Just because I think they made changes to the quorum and snapshot, so they just changed the oSnap rules to reflect that change. But yeah, it was a really easy process and kind of a cool one to see, because just like the whole decentralized process of being able to make those updates without the multi-sig signers.
Nice. And on the dispute, just to make sure I get it, like what UMA's doing is making sure that like what is in the proposal matches the transactions that are being made, right? So like in the situation that Gitcoin had where they meant to pay the merch memes and marketing workstream, but the address was wrong. That's the kind of thing that UMA's designed to catch, right?
Yeah, so it catches pretty much everything that's so when a proposal is made, it also includes this explanation, and this explanation links to like this unique proposal. So it would basically be this value. So it looks at this proposal and it evaluates, right, like the quorum and the rules. Everyone voted in favor of this, and then we also have this verification program. So when a proposal is created that has oSnap transaction payloads, what you mentioned with like, yeah, looking at if you're actually accidentally sending tokens to a token contract address, we have 3 independent verifiers that look at every single proposal, and they go through a whole checklist of items to try to catch things before they're actually voted on. And then we also do another check, and yeah, like we verify, does the transaction payload match the intent of the proposal? So it doesn't even need to necessarily be malicious. Um, like it's if you accidentally, we had one, yeah, like a DAO included transactions from a previous proposal, and so like it wasn't malicious, and but it was just like an accidental issue that we were able to catch ahead of time. So it's kind of like those kind of things that are also being looked at, which I think is a really nice added benefit, because a lot of other governance tools, like it's really on the DAO. The burden of verifying everything is on the DAOs, and with UMA you have this verification program, but also these third-party verifiers that are actually financially incentivized. If they dispute something accurately, they get half of that proposer's bond. So we have a lot of people checking these proposals that are just trying to make money. So I think it's a good way to incentivize, just verifiers.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. And then I remember we were chatting ages. I can't remember, it's a long time ago, but let's say proposal goes up and it's malicious, but follows the rules. So extreme example, but someone buys up loads of the code token, tries to drain the treasury or send the money to Russia or something, which is not good. It's not going to catch those things. But I think you also shared in the proposal we could, if we wanted to, add a dispute, a veto mechanism for that. We just have to decide how that works.
Yes, it's I feel like this has been approached differently by DAOs based on, for example, they basically they removed all their admins, but they still have moderators on their space, and all moderators can do is just basically delete or filter proposals that don't meet the bylaws of the DAO. So if something was really I know we've talked through some hypothetical examples, but if it just didn't meet the intentions or the rules of the DAO, that's one way that how is chosen to filter proposals. But you could absolutely do it at the dispute level as well. We have most of the DAOs have tried to do this through Flashstake. They basically require a temperature check before transactions can be included in a proposal, and so they have they have these temperature checks, and then once those pass, then the proposal can include the transaction payload. So I think it's kind of up to the DAO, but there's a lot of different ways on how we could handle this so that things that are against the rules or the bylaws of the DAO aren't proposed and executed.
Billy's included, not Billy, Bobby's included safeguards in the Zodiac module in the proposal. Could you explain what that approach is and how that works?
Yeah, so you could easily add basically a guard where you could have this is kind of we have an integration called B Protocol that they kind of created this as well. Whereas the only permission that they have is to delete, essentially veto proposals, and it's a nice kind of, because it can be a separate multi-sig or a separate yeah, it's just the sole purpose is just the only thing they can do is veto proposals that don't follow the rules. So that's kind of a route that a lot of DAOs have been interested in. I think there's been one or two that have actually implemented it, but yeah, it's very different from like having the multi-sig signers. It's just you have like this separate separate group that can all they can do is veto a proposal if it's malicious or doesn't follow the rules. Um, yeah, so I think that could be like a very interesting path that you could go as well.
So we that could be like assigned to like a random EOA wallet or a multi-sig, and then like during the dispute period, they can just stop that proposal basically.
Yep, you could. There was one DAO where like they wanted it to be a few different people that could do this, so they created a multi-sig that had it only required the threshold was like one of four. So like any of these four people were able to maybe it was two of four, but like two, so they could be more rapid than like the multi-sig signers could be. Like if two people just agreed to this proposal shouldn't be executed, they had the ability to. That's all they could do, but they could essentially veto that those transactions. Which, yeah, I think that's a pretty elegant model.
Cool. I'm curious if anyone like has any perspective on the need or not need for a veto who's on this call at the minute. No? I get.
I'm just gonna throw this out though, Kemp. The other way you can technically still veto, I guess, Alex. I guess since there's multi-sig signers still present, you could technically just disable the oSnap module too, right, as a veto.
Yeah, that's so like having the multi-sig signers. It's like an emergency fallback. So yeah, if I don't imagine any of these things will ever happen, but if there is a case where oSnap needs to be disabled or a proposal wants to be prevented, like it's a messier option, but you could just disable the module. And I think like that's kind of the purpose of the guard module is to be able to do this in an easier, but even if you if you decided to not have the guard module, yeah, the option of just disabling the module with the multi-sig is always an option as well.
Cool. If we disable oSnap via like the multi-sig signers, we just need to like redeploy it or reintegrate it after that.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think like a lot of like everything, all of this can be changed as well. So if you decide you want to start with a guard module, and then you have no reason for it, or it just seems like not needed, you could always remove it later, and vice versa. You could always add it later as well. So we're happy to kind of work with you guys on what makes the most sense over time.
Cool. Yeah, I think my perspective is like having a guard module and giving the stewards that power when we start with like maybe a slightly longer dispute period to get as we like mature our governance could be good, and then we can always remove that, as you say, in the future. It feels cleaner to do that than to have to like remove the whole thing, right? I think if we feel we need that mechanism in place. Out of interest, is this something that like DAOs have tended to put in, or have they just tended to just kind of go full commitment into oSnap and not have these guard modules in?
Yeah, I think we've talked to some teams about it, but most teams I'm really only thinking of one or two that have just actually included some type of safeguard. I think like most DAOs have just decided just to do it at the snapshot level. But it's something that can easily be done. But most DAOs have just defaulted to not having a guard module. But I do think it's something that could like easily kind of like training wheels, start with them, and like you said, it's easier just to have that and feel that the security of there's stewards watching proposals and they have some authority if something doesn't feel right, and then I think that's like a really good starting point.
Billy K, Crypto Mummy, bloody hell, Paloma. What do you think?
Ooh, I like it overall. I had to jump out for a meeting really quick, so I missed some of it. One question I do have for the execution of it, like everything passes, proposal passes, where does that funding gas come in? And then, like, if we fund it ourselves, is there RPC choices? Like, can we use Gas Hawk for something to optimize gas to run the execution?
Yep, we pay for everything, Bill. UMA covers the cost.
Oh, how much does it cost to do this then?
Yeah, we've had some really. There's been some more expensive, like the airdrop, and like some of the contract deployments have been expensive. But like we settle all. I mean, we settle all of our contracts anyway, just to provide a better experience integration. So it's not much. These DAO proposals are relatively infrequent. Even when they're one a day or something, it's still not too bad. So, and from the user experience on the DAO side is just so much better. Like not having to worry about community members or team members coming in and paying who's going to pay for these execution costs. So our bot pretty much watches, and once the challenge period's over, it immediately executes it. So you also save them some time there. So that's a feature we have, and so you don't have to worry about the gas costs.
What would be the initial cost of the DAO? Sorry if you covered this. I just had to step out.
There's no cost to use this at all. No cost to developer DAO. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So like it's just kind of like this cool service that you guys are just taking the hit for general usage.
Kind of, but it's just we kind of see it like this, Bill. We kind of see it as a public good. For us in general, developer DAO and other things are like it's such early in the ecosystem that it's super valuable for DAOs to like succeed and not like waste away because like with like transaction costs and like DAOs are just like just even running foundations so expensive. So like since we're already settling like polymarket like prediction markets, those are already the bulk of the amount that's going through. DAOs are putting in how much beefy proposals a month, not too many, so it's just as a public good. And then we also this gets us, to be honest, an intro to DAOs that may be building things in the future that may want to use some of our other products like our optimistic Oracle, for example, and it leads to more integration. So it's kind of like our top of the funnel public good that we're going to continue doing.
Gotcha. It's the free RPC, hoping that you pay for the full one or use the services from Alchemy or something, right? I mean, I love it. I don't know why we don't do it. I can't find an argument not to.
Yeah, and UMA also, like our number one goal is just to increase the value that we're securing through the Oracle and everything that we're settling. So I think that UMA does have some benefits there, as well as like we're getting really good connections with a lot of these DAOs, and then also just the value that we're securing. And this is a great dashboard I can post as well, and just shows all the other integrations that are using oSnap right now. It's about 325 million have total value secured. So I think that we want to keep continuing to secure more treasuries and helping DAOs.
The only drawback is like treasury raids, right? So we have to make sure that like all the proposals that get elevated don't drain the vault, right? That's what I see in automated vaults.
Yeah, yeah.
But-
Can you go into more detail there? Like,
oh
you
yeah,
mean-
like it's basically, you know, like a big whale comes in and governance says, hey, you know, vote to transfer all this money out. They have the swing vote, so like the whole community has to come and like counter vote it in order for it to like not drain the treasury.
Yeah, and I think that so that's kind of where like the minimum voting period for oSnap comes in, because I remember there's something with like a reality module long way back, but it was like if you have the minimum voting period set and quorum set, anything that doesn't pass that snapshot is just going to be automatically disputed. And then let's say, and this is kind of like where we were talking earlier, but like let's say that for some reason there's enough code tokens that someone can get the proposal through, and I think that could potentially be where this guard module makes sense, where you could have some of the stewards be able to still veto that proposal to prevent that from going through. And yeah, that would be like during that 1 to 3 day challenge period. So I think as long as those specific parameters were set appropriately, we could absolutely like. I feel very comfortable that we would be able to, you know, defend any like malicious proposals of someone trying to get something like that through.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen it before, like in like the old school DAO days of like, you know, one hive and all them, and with the retention period, it becomes like everybody has to vote against it in the challenge period in order to make it happen. Just curious how that works. Yeah.
Yeah, it would so like it would still need to like pass on Snapshot, and then it would still need to even then essentially be accepted. And if you had the guard module, like anyone could veto that. And also if this was truly a malicious attack and you still had the multi-sig signers as a fallback, like what Manny mentioned earlier, you could always disable the oSnap module, and that would prevent any transactions from being executed. It's kind of a emergency, like that is another option that you could use to prevent this.
Yeah. That sounds good. I like it. I don't. Yeah. When? That's the question. It's just
when
Yeah.
we're talking about these guard modules and stuff, like we could even put that bit up to a vote, right? Like rather than try and debate it here and figure it out, like maybe we could put like a vote up that's like implement oSnap with Zodiac module, don't implement oSnap. We just need to decide who would have the dispute power on that Zodiac module. Is there a sense here of whether or not folks think that module should be in place, or we should just rely on the multi-sig signers to be able to like be the last like I can't think of the phrase, but I think people know what I'm trying to get at. Rely on the multi-sig signers to be able to like detach oSnap in the worst scenario.
Yeah, that should go up to discussion, but most likely it ends up being on the steward's laps anyway, because it's like everybody has an opinion, but when it comes down to doing it and watching it and maintaining it, it comes down to a select few. So how it works.
Cool. Does anyone have any other questions?
I'm good. I like it.
If anyone has any questions after this, definitely feel free to either post something in that original post, or you can find me or Manny to ask any other further questions.
What do we need to decide, Alex, to raise this up? We need to decide the dispute period, whether or not we want that Zodiac module, and is there anything else we need to decide, or?
Yeah, I think since you have the quorum and the voting period on the space already, yeah, it's just deciding if you want to launch with that guard module, and then the dispute period. I think 1 to 3 days is that sweet spot, and then that's also something that can easily be changed later. So if you want to start at 3 days, you can always bring that down easily later. But that is something that you would need to decide on.
Cool. And as soon as we've decided on that, we're good to go, right? And then whenever it passes on our side, you guys can. And do you handle the integration, or is it something that we would need to do?
So we've done a lot of work on this Safe app, and once the integration passed, you could easily go in and it's like one click. I'll send you the video. I think it takes 60 seconds, and they would just require the multi-sig signers to then execute that transaction, and then it would automatically be detected by the snapshot space, and really there would be no other work there. So really quick integration, no code, no contract changes or anything.
Cool. Seems like a no-brainer to me. Sweet. Yeah, cool. Thanks very much, man. That was great.
Thanks so much for having me. This has been fun, and again, happy to answer any questions or do whatever else is needed for the help. Yeah, this is exciting, and looking forward to putting this up for a vote.
Nice.